In Job 26, verse 14, it says, "But these are but fringes of his way. How faint is the word we hear of him. Who can understand his mighty thunder?" This entire like section right here is pretty cool. This is Job's reply to one of his very crummy friends that was like, "Oh, you must have done bad in order to get all the stuff that's happening to you." If you two guys don't know about Job, Job lost he lost all of his kids, he lost all of his money, he lost all of his houses, he lost all of his crops and animals. The only thing he didn't lose was his wife, and his wife said, "Curse God and die." So there was a reason why she was left. Um, but his friends were like, "Oh, well, obviously this is happening because of something that you did. What did you do?" So it goes back and forth between his friends and then Job responding to his friends. And this is his response to Bildad. Um, but this section right here is the departed spirits tremble beneath the waters, and all that inhabit them. Sheol is naked before God, and Abaddon has no covering. He stretches the northern skies over empty space. He hangs the earth on nothing. He wraps up the water in his clouds, yet the clouds do not burst beneath its weight. He obscures the view of his throne, spreading his cloud over it. He laid out the horizon on the surface of the waters, at the boundary between light and darkness. The pillars that hold up the sky tremble, astounded at his rebuke. By his power he stirred the sea, and by his understanding he crushed Rahab. By his breath the heavens gained their beauty, his hand pierced the fleeting serpent. These are but the fringes of his ways. How faint is the word we hear of him. Who can understand his mighty thunder? If we look at this compared to Genesis, this is very powerful when you take into account Genesis, which, mind you, Job was written before, not written, it took place before Exodus happened. I know it comes after, but if you look at it chronologically, Job happens, I believe, after the flood. It's been a minute, but around that time. But in Genesis 1, this again, we see his power, his might. I mean, he created the world. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. He said, "Let there be light," and there was light, and he saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. This is not sun and moon, this is light and darkness. Before, there was just dark. Now God has created light and darkness. And then he said, "Let there be expanse between the water, separating water from water." One was called sky, and the other was just like the earth. Because there was no land on earth yet. It was just a blob of water, basically. And then he said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered into one place, and let the dry land appear." God called the dry land earth, and he called the water seas. And then the earth started to produce vegetation. He created plants. So now we see he's created light, he's created darkness, he's created the separation of the earth from the rest of, space, sky versus earth. And then he created dry land, and now he's created food or plants and stuff like that. And then evening and morning came the third day. Then this is when he creates the sun, the moon, and the stars. He said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the sky to separate the day from the night. They would be signs for seasons and for days and for years." He created the sun and the moon so exact. And not even that. I would honestly even say that this is when all the other planets were created as well. Because this is how we are able to tell what season it is, what year it is, all of these things are how we tell our signs, our seasons, our days, and our years. He created this so specifically for us to be able to know that from these lights in the expanse of the sky. And furthermore, he put every single thing in a perfect place to where the earth could still exist with humans on it. The sun was not too close or too far. The moon is within perfect orbit. The moon and the sun work together to create tides and all this stuff. Like, this stuff is important. This is so powerful. I mean, and God is the first to obviously come up with this concept. So God thought of all this stuff on his own and knew what was best for us before anything had even been created. It wasn't like he was running some experiment. Moving on. Then God said, "Let the water swarm with living creatures." So now and let birds fly above the earth across the expanse of the sky. Blah, blah. So now there's sea creatures and birds. Then, after the fifth day, the sixth day, He said, let earth produce living creatures according to their kinds, livestock, creatures that crawl, and the wildlife of the earth according to their kinds. So this is all of the cows, the dogs, the bugs, the bees, all of these land dwelling creatures. So anything that is not a bird and anything that does not live in the sea was created on this day. And that's a lot of creatures. I mean, we haven't even discovered all species on the earth. That's a lot of creatures. And then God said, let us make man in our own image. And this is the most powerful display of his creation, where he creates human life that is beyond what any of this other stuff that has been created is capable of. And he puts man in charge of this creation to take care of it. And this creation, as seen in us today as humans, have an understanding and a spirit and morals and all the stuff that animals and plants do not have. He created us in his image. I more so believe in the aspect that we do have feelings and morals and things that are not the same as animals. Do animals get sad, lonely, depressed, or happy? Yes, but it is not nearly the same as what humans experience. The human experience versus the animal experience is so totally different, and not even similar to plants at all, because plants don't have feelings. God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. And then he told them to be fruitful, multiply, subdue the earth, rule the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, and every creature that crawls on the earth. He wanted them to take care of it. And then in the end, God saw that all that he had made, and it was very good indeed. Evening and morning came the sixth day. And then we know that on the seventh day, he rested. On the seventh day, he said, okay, I've done all this work. Now it's time for me to rest. And this was also symbolism for us, symbolism that was to come, of how we as humans need rest and how God did this intentionally. This wasn't just, oh, our God is weak and can't do anything, so now he needs to rest. Uh-oh, he exerted himself. No, he chose to do that intentionally because rest is important. And rest is important for more than just regaining your physical stamina, but also your spiritual and mental stamina. Rest is so important. And all of this stuff in Genesis 1 and the start of verse 2 alone shows his mighty and amazing power. And we see his power again and again and again all throughout the Old Testament, through Noah when he flooded the earth, and through Moses when he parted the Red Sea and guided the Israelites through the wilderness and did all of the stuff in Egypt. And we see it in David, how first and foremost how David defeated Goliath, but then how he made him into a great king. And we just constantly see it happen, how God is so powerful in the Old Testament alone. And then we go to the New Testament when God comes down to earth. God the Father sends his only Son, God the Son, Jesus Christ, down to earth, fully God, fully man, to live a perfect and sinless life, which he does. And then he goes to the cross. And while he is on the cross, something incredibly powerful happens. In Matthew 27, and we can see this in Mark and Luke and John, from noon until 3 in the afternoon, darkness came over the whole land. That's not normal. Sure, maybe it could have been a storm, but I guarantee you that for them, this felt weird. This felt off. This felt different. About 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, my God, why have you abandoned me? And then he cried out again with a loud voice and gave up his spirit. Suddenly, and this is where even more power happens, the curtain of the sanctuary was torn from top to bottom. The earth quaked and the rocks were split. The tombs were also open, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And this does not mean, oh, honk shoo, they're asleep. This means they were dead. And they were raised now. And they came out of the tombs after his resurrection, entered the holy city, and appeared to many. I mean, if this isn't power, and I mean, even when you look at Jesus' miracles while he was on this earth, even just turning water into wine, I believe, first miracle, and then healing he healed so many people that, like, modern medicine in that time could not have healed them, obviously, or else they would have been healed. Even modern medicine today probably wouldn't have healed a lot of those people, because some of those people were blind from birth, lame, or whatever else, and Jesus healed them. But this right here is also so incredibly powerful, in more than just the display of power, but in the symbolism as well. The curtain alone in the sanctuary. So, for those that may not know, the curtain in the sanctuary, there was a division. There was a division between the temple itself and then the Holy of Holies. The Holy of Holies was curtained off. We can go back to, I believe, either Deuteronomy or Leviticus, and we see that they had built this curtain for the Holy of Holies. This was not some flimsy curtain that you could just, easily tear. No, this was very tall, very thick, very well crafted. And it tore from top to bottom. No human could do that, especially because of how tall it was. And this was a symbolism that man no longer had to go through the high priest in order to have direct contact with God. Now it is available to anybody who believes in God. Now we are no longer separated from our God. He didn't want to be separated from us. He never wanted to be separated from us. And how beautiful is that symbolism? How beautiful is his power and his love and his grace and his mercy that he did all of this. We have such a powerful and almighty God that can do amazing and miraculous things. In Mark 4, it says, on that day, when evening had come, he told them, let's cross over to the other side of the sea. He had just gotten done doing a parable and preaching and all this stuff, and they were going to head across the sea, him and his disciples. So they left the crowd and took him along, since he was in the boat, and other boats were with him. A great windstorm arose, and the waves were breaking over the boat, so that the boat was already being swamped. He was in the stern, sleeping on the cushion. So they woke him up and said, Teacher, don't you care that we're going to die? His disciples are just terrified for their lives, and he's just over there snoozing. He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the sea, Silence, be still. The wind ceased, and there was a great calm. Then he said to them, Why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith? I mean, I probably would have been scared too. But Jesus took that fear and anxiety and was immediately like, no, there's literally no need. Here, look, it's gone. See? And they were terrified and asked one another, Who is this then? Even the wind and the sea obeys him. This story, this isn't even a parable, this is something that happened, is an amazing show of not just God's power, but his care. Jesus cares so much for each and every single one of us that when storms come up in our lives, he doesn't want us to be scared and terrified. He wants us to come to him and say, God, I know you can take care of this. I know you will take care of this. We know, and we see this through David many, many, many times. Psalm 91 specifically says this, because you have made the Lord my refuge, the Most High your dwelling place. You no longer will harm come to you. No plague will come near your tent, for he will give his angels orders concerning you to protect you in all your ways. They will support you with their heads, so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. You will tread on the lion and the cobra. You will trample the young lion and the serpent, which those are symbolisms of the devil. We have refuge in Jesus. We have victory through Jesus. We can trample on Satan all we want because of Jesus. We no longer have to fear the storms of life. Yes, they are still scary. Yes, there are times when anxiety is going to rise. Yes, it is going to be rough, but we don't have to fear because we know that we have a God that is going to provide for us no matter what. Even if it may not look like what we want it to look like, he will provide. Sometimes, unfortunately, God providing does mean that your family member that is suffering, unfortunately, passes away, but now they're with God and no longer suffering. Sometimes it means losing that job that you were barely holding on to in the first place because God has something greater in store for you. Sometimes it means losing a friendship or a romantic relationship because God knows that that's not the person that you need to be with, either as a friend or as a life partner. He knows that those are not the people that you need to do life with. It hurts and it sucks sometimes. But even in those storms, God is providing. And you just need to keep your eyes on Him and say, God, I trust you in this storm. I trust that you will take care of the wind and the waves. I trust that you will be my refuge, my dwelling place in this time of trouble. And not always are we going to see the end of our storms in this life. Many people have their own thorn, as Paul put it, that they have to deal with. For me personally, my actual anxiety and depression, it's something that I'm going to deal with for the rest of my life. I have a friend who deals with chronic illness and I have several friends actually that deal with chronic illness and chronic pain that they are going to deal with for the rest of their life. But that does not negate God's power, because even though they have prayed for God to take it away, God has a plan for those things. And I have seen the most beautiful displays of surrender to God in some of those people who know that even though it's going to hurt sometimes, and even though there's going to be flare-ups of the issues that happen, they know that God has a purpose and a reason for them on this earth, and they may just have to suffer with the chronic illnesses until they meet Jesus. And I know that for a lot of people, that's not what people like to hear at all. They would like to hear that, oh, once you're saved, you're miraculously healed, but that's not the reality. And we, even going back to Job, we see that not always are these physical ailments a result of sin. Are they a result of us living in a sinful world? Sure. But not always are the issues we face in life because of the devil. Not always are the issues we face in life because of something that we have done. Sometimes the devil does attack us. Sometimes we do go under spiritual warfare. Sometimes it is something that we did and we receive the natural consequences of our actions, because guess what, buddy? You're still going to receive natural consequences of your actions. You are not free of natural consequences of your actions just because you're saved. Sometimes things just happen. It's the reality of living in a sinful and fallen and broken world. It's nothing that you did. It's nothing that God did. It's not even anything the devil did. It's just a result of the world we live in. And it takes discernment to know what is necessarily happening, definitely. And that should be something you work on with God, is discerning, okay, is this spiritual warfare or is this just life? Is this something that I did that I need to fix in my life, or is this just life? And at the end of it all, in 1 Peter 5, it says, casting all your cares on him because he cares about you. All these cares, all these worries, cast them onto him. Be sober-minded, be alert. Your adversary, the devil, is prowling around like a roaring lion, looking for anyone he can devour. Resist him from in the faith, knowing that the same kind of sufferings are being experienced by your fellow believers throughout the world. You are not the only person to ever go through storms. You are not the only person to ever have chronic illness. You are not the only person to suffer with anxiety and depression. You are not the only person to struggle with losing family or friends. You are not the only person who has struggled with, a romantic unfulfillment. You are not the only person who has struggled. Do not let the enemy tell you that you are the only person that struggles, and do not let yourself puff yourself up to that level to believe that you are the only person to struggle. Turn to your brothers and sisters in Christ and say, hey, I'm going through stuff right now. Can you pray for me? Can you help me? Hey, I deal with this, and right now, I deal with this chronic thing, and right now it's really, really bad. Can you please pray for me that I can bear and get through this storm with God? Turn to your brothers and sisters in Christ in your time of need. And most importantly, turn to God as well. Keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. Don't keep your eyes fixed on the storm. Keep your eyes fixed on the founder and perfecter of your faith. Cast all your cares on him, and I know that that's easier said than done. But casting a net, so this fisherman analogy is used a lot because, well, the disciples, a lot of them were fishermen. Casting a net is not easy. Usually those nets are heavy. Sometimes if you're in a storm, those nets are already wet, which makes them even heavier. Cast that stuff onto him. Cast those burdens onto him. Because he cares about you. And he is so, so powerful and ready and willing and able to take care of you. And again, it may not look like what you want it to look like, but I promise you, he is going to show his power and his great love towards you.